In China a long, long time ago, there is a story that has been sung by countless generations, which took place in a mysterious and beautiful ancient time. It was a time when man and nature coexisted in harmony, but equally, the world was subjected to natural disasters and challenges from time to time. One of the most unforgettable stories is about a heroic archer, Ho-yi, and his beautiful wife, Chang'e. The story of Ho-yi is about a man who was not just an ordinary man, but a man who was also an ordinary woman. Ho-yi, he was more than just an ordinary archer. Legend has it that his arrows hit everything, and his courage rivaled that of the gods. It was this hero who, when 9 suns appeared in the sky at the same time, drying up the rivers, scorching the land, and scorching the lives of the people, stepped forward and, with the bow and arrows in his hand, shot down those unruly suns, eventually leaving only one to bring light and warmth to the earth. You may think, such a hero, his life must be full of honor and praise. But let me tell you, there is an even more important part of his life, and that is his wife, Chang'e. Chang'e was so beautiful that even the moon would hide in the clouds out of jealousy. She was not only Ho-yi's life partner, but the driving force behind all his battles. One day, Ho-yi accidentally discovered a mysterious elixir during one of his adventures, which was said to possess the power to make people live forever. Imagine, immortality, it's an irresistible attraction for anyone, right? But Ho-yi, instead of taking it right away, took it home with him, intending to share this hard-won gift with Chang'e. However, there are always some people in the world who can be blinded by their desire for power. A disciple named Chang'e, he was one such person. When he learned that Ho-yi had gotten the news of the elixir of immortality, he became evil-minded and wanted to rob the elixir. Chang'e chose a day when Ho-yi was out of town and quietly sneaked into Ho-yi's house. Chang'e was alone at home. Facing the sudden intrusion of Chang'e, she never expected that this former disciple would become so disfigured by greed. Faced with Chang'e's threat, although Chang'e was afraid in her heart, she was more worried about the consequences of the immortal medicine falling into the hands of the evil one. At that moment, she made a decision that even she had not anticipated. At that critical moment, Chang'e swallowed the immortal pill without hesitation, preferring to bear all the unknowable consequences rather than see the immortal pill fall into the hands of an evil person. Seeing this, Chang'e was furious and helpless. He knew that everything could not be undone and had to flee from the scene. The moment Chang'e swallowed the immortal pill, her body began to undergo strange changes. She felt herself becoming lighter and lighter, as if even the air could lift her body. At first, Chang'e thought this was just a momentary effect brought about by the immortal pill, but she soon realized that she was slowly leaving the ground and rising towards the sky. She tried to grab onto anything in her home to stop herself from soaring, but the invisible force was too strong for her to resist. As she passes through the clouds and gets closer and closer to the moon, Chang'e truly realizes that she is about to embark on a whole new journey. Meanwhile, Ho-yi returns from the outside world to find his home in chaos and Chang'e missing. He searched around until he found the empty pill bottle on the ground, and then he realized the truth. His heart was like a knife. He knew that Chang'e had chosen self-sacrifice to protect the elixir. Ho-yi was so grief-stricken that he rushed out of his house and looked up at the full moon rising in the night sky, hoping to find Chang'e's figure in the moonlight. Upon arriving at the moon palace, Chang'e realized that she had truly become a fairy in the moon. The beauty of the moon palace far surpassed that of the earth, but all this beauty was just floating clouds in Chang'e's mind. She stood on the terrace of the moon palace, looking at the distant earth and thinking of Ho-yi, her heart filled with endless loneliness and sadness. She began to realize that immortality is not the greatest happiness, and spending every ordinary day and night with her lover is her greatest wish. Day after day, Chang'e spent countless lonely hours in the Moon Palace. She sometimes talked with the Jade Rabbit in the Moon Palace and Wu Gang, who was punished for cutting down the immortal osmanthus tree, but none of these could fill the emptiness inside her. Chang'e began to search the Moon Palace for possible ways to return to Earth and meet Hou-Yi again someday. As for Hou-Yi, whenever night fell, he would be alone, looking up at the moon, quietly thinking of Chang'e. He was a man of the world, but he was a man of the world, and he was a man of the world. He began to look around to the immortals for advice, hoping to find some way for him to fly to the Moon Palace and be reunited with Chang'e. Though the road was long and full of unknowns, Hou-Yi had only one thought in mind, and that was to be reunited with Chang'e, no matter what the cost. The moonlit night is like water. Hou-Yi walks alone in the quiet mountain forest, his heart filled with deep thoughts of Chang'e. Since Chang'e took the elixir of immortality, Hou-Yi's heart has been filled with deep thoughts of her. Since Chang'e had ascended to the Moon Palace as a result of taking the immortal medicine, his world seemed to have lost its luster. Whenever night fell, Hou-Yi would look up at the bright moon, hoping to find Chang'e's shadow in the silvery white moonlight. He knew that Chang'e was in the distant Moon Palace, perhaps also looking at the same starry sky, missing him on Earth. On Earth, Hou-Yi's heroism was widely celebrated, as he shot down 9 suns and protected all living things, but in his own heart, nothing compared to the days he spent with Chang'e. He began to look around for immortals, and found Chang'e's shadow. He began to search for immortals and ways to get to the Moon Palace, just so he could see Chang'e again, even if it was just for a brief glimpse. But no matter where he went, the answer was always disappointing. The way to the Moon Palace seemed to exist only in myths and no one could find it. Meanwhile, in the distant Moon Palace, Chang'e stands at the edge of the Moon Palace every night, gazing at the distant Earth. What the elixir of immortality brings her is not happiness, but endless loneliness and isolation. Although the Moon Palace is beautiful, in her eyes, without Hou-Yi's company, it is like an empty palace. She often held the Jade Rabbit that accompanied her for many years, tearful, pouring out the thoughts and attachment to Hou-Yi. As time passed, Hou-Yi's hair slowly turned gray, but his thoughts and waiting for Chang'e never changed. On every full moon night, he would be alone, light a solitary lamp, and set out Chang'e's favorite food, as if Chang'e was still by his side. In his heart, he made a promise to Chang'e: no matter where she was, his love would be like the eternal moonlight, traveling through time and space to illuminate her every lonely night. In this way, Hou-Yi and Chang'e were separated by thousands of mountains, but their hearts were tightly connected. In that endless longing, they waited together for the love that belonged to each other, waiting for that one miraculous moment given by fate. As time passes, the story of Chang'e running to the moon has been sung from generation to generation, and it is not only an ancient legend, but has also become an integral part of the Mid-Autumn Festival. At this time of the year, both far-flung travelers and their loved ones at home will share mooncakes and enjoy the moonlight under the bright moonlight, in order to commemorate the steadfast love of Chang'e and Hou-Yi, and at the same time, to express their infinite longing for their loved ones and their good wishes for the future life. On this special night, people are not only reminiscing about the ancient love story, but also taking advantage of the light of the moon to convey their feelings and blessings to their distant relatives through the full moon. The moon has become a bridge connecting the emotions between people, no matter how far apart, can feel each other's heart and warmth. At the same time, Chang'e in the Moon Palace also missed Hou-Yi on such a night. She stood at the high place of the Moon Palace, quietly looking at the direction of the earth, her eyes full of deep love and longing. Although she and Hou-yi could no longer walk hand in hand as they did in the past, she believed that their love was as bright and eternal as the moon, which had undergone countless changes and reincarnations. The story of Chang'e running to the moon tells us that true love transcends time and space, and it can make people feel warm in the loneliest moments and see hope in the most desperate moments. Just like the full moon on the night of Mid-Autumn Festival, no matter how the world changes, love and the warmth of home are always the best yearning in people's hearts. In this Mid-Autumn Festival, when you look up to the full moon, you might as well let your heart travel under the moonlight, to feel the touch of the love story that crosses thousands of years, to miss those loved ones who are far away from home or heaven, and to let love connect every heart in this special night.